welcome back to another episode of the Christian Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Kennedy Llewellyn, and today I'm joined with a very special guest. In her first year at Auburn, she was on the 2022 NCAA All-America second team for Beam. She was on the WCGA All-America first team for Beam. She was on the All-SEC team. She was a WCGA Scholastic All-American. She was on the first year SEC academic team. And finally, she was SEC Freshman of the Week 3 months in a row. Please welcome Sophia Groth.
Welcome to the Christian Athlete Podcast. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Of course. Yes, so if you don't mind, would you just share a brief part of your testimony for us?
Absolutely. My testimony definitely revolves around identity and just finding my identity in Christ alone and not in my sport, because for a long time, that's what I did. And I didn't grow up in a household where we went to church every week, and I always believed in God, but I didn't have a real relationship with him. And so, I put my identity in my sport, and gymnastics is a very intense sport. And I was at an elite level fast track throughout my whole career. And when that failed me, I really didn't have anything else to lean back on. And it was hard. It was really hard. It put me in a deep, dark place, and I didn't have my faith or anything to really catch me. So, I thought that was the end, and I thought I had no more life to live because my dreams were over. And if I wasn't going to achieve my dreams in gymnastics, then who was I? And so I had a friend who noticed that I was struggling, and she was like, "You're not your fun, happy self." And I was like, "Yeah, there's nothing else to live for." And she was like, "Yeah, that's just not true." And so she invited me to a youth night, and I got saved, and I was in 7th grade. And it was awesome. And ever since then, I've just been on fire for Jesus. And, how faith goes, you have your ebbs and your flows. But coming to college, it's really just continued to broaden my perspective and help me immerse myself in a culture that, it's very welcoming to be public and open with your faith. And I'm so glad I'm at a place where people really just embrace that, and you don't have to be afraid to share your faith. And that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. You got saved at, you said 7th grade?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so cool. The whole thing with identity, I feel like for anyone, but like specifically athletes, identity plays a huge role in how you see your sport and how you perform. But yeah, like you were saying, it gets to a point where you take so much of like your performance and you base it off of who you are. And when you're not performing well, it's like, well, I guess I'm just not good at anything. It's like, well, darn. But yeah, that's really good. I guess on to my first question. So I was just reading some of your stats on the roster, and you have a lot of achievements, and I just want to go ahead and read them off. Y'all get some popcorn because it's going to be a long list. So some awards and honors. So you were a 2022 NCAA All-American second team on Beam, 2022 WCGA All-American first team on Beam, 2022 All-SEC, 2022 WCGA Scholastic All-American, and a 2022 through 2023 first year SEC academic team. And you were also SEC Freshman of the Week for 3 months in a row. That is amazing. Can you just get into like what's that like, and just for you to go out there and just perform? And I noticed also because you're a sophomore, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that all happened when you were like freshman.
Yes.
That's insane. That's like a huge accomplishment. Can you just kind of dive deeper into the work it took and how you were able to see God in that?
Absolutely. And in club gymnastics, it was very individualized sport. You didn't have it was a team sport, but it's an individual sport. And all your success and your performances are based on what you can do singularly. And coming into college, that's the biggest difference between club and college, is that now you have this team, and your team success determines, your individual success. And coming in as a freshman, I had no expectations. I was just happy to be here, and I wanted to contribute the most I could and just do it for my team. And so throughout my whole season, it was kind of just like a fever dream because I was able just to, capitalize off of the other people coming into our team that year. We had SUNY coming in, and we had a great freshman class. We had great juniors and seniors that led our team. And I was just having fun and doing what I knew how to do. And, gymnastics is a very repetitive sport. So you're doing the same routines, and I've been doing half my skills for over 10 years now. But it's different every year because you're a different gymnast, you're a different person. And so last year it was just so joy filled, and I was competing out of a place of complete freedom because I didn't have that pressure of, my identity is in my sport alone. So if I don't perform, then, you know, I have nothing else. I had my faith, and I got plugged into a church right away, and I had a church family, and I had a life outside of gymnastics. And so it really helped me create that balance where I was able to balance my school, my social life, and my gymnastics. And it created a really good recipe for me to just thrive and reach my peak performances at the right time.
Yeah, that's really good. And I know you guys have such a busy schedule, with especially like in season. And so how do you try to find time for God or try to involve him in your day?
Yeah, so last year my schedule was very packed. I had something every day. Mondays I had FCA, Tuesdays I had a small group, Wednesdays I was serving on our motion team, which is our local church's youth night for high school students. And then we had our college ministry night on Thursday nights, and then we competed Friday, and
Mhm.
then church on Sunday. So I was booked every night, and I looked at my schedule and I was like, wow, this is going to be overwhelming. But God was able to really just use my time, and I gave my time to him, and he multiplied it. And those activities were time consuming, but they were also such spiritually filling events and social activities to where I didn't feel exhausted or burned out. And I was able to make time for him. And I am an exercise science major, so it's it's hard. It's a hard major, but it's not
Mhm.
engineering or something where I
Right.
have to constantly be studying. So that definitely helped a lot. But yeah, I don't think I could have done any of it without the support of my church family and just my friends, and having those God-filled relationships around me.
That's really good. And what church do you go to?
I go to Church of the Highlands.
Yeah, I go to that one too.
Okay,
When you
that's
said
awesome.
motion, yeah, when you said motion night, I was like, my church does motion night. Wait a second. That's so cool. Yeah, it's a great community. I love them so much. They're really supportive. Um, yeah, that's really good. And like you mentioned, you're in FCA. So being an FCA, there's a lot of great people, a lot of great leaders. And it's a great way to just meet new people and brothers and sisters in Christ. Is there how has FCA just kind of influenced your faith and made it grow stronger?
Yeah, so in high school, I wasn't really involved in our FCA because I didn't do a high school sport, and it was a little harder for me to, connect with those
Mm.
student athletes because it was a different world of athletics. But I did prayer club in high school, and it was similar to FCA. And then coming into Auburn, I really wanted to, find that group of people. And a lot of our FCA members actually aren't student athletes. They were student athletes in high school or something like that. And
Mhm.
it broadens your horizon again, just expands your cohort, expands your circle. And our FCA here at Auburn is small just because everyone is so involved in like church activities that they all have their own like small groups or different things. But I love our little FCA family. It's awesome. And just to see the impact of a small few people can have on a university is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I get that here too. Yeah, because I also go to FCA here, and I'm a former student athlete. I was on the track team here my freshman year, but after that, I was still able to come to FCA, and everyone's just so welcoming, and I really just love the environment. And shoot, I'd honestly encourage like people who weren't athletes like ever to come to FCA. It's just a great place to be. Yeah. So I was also reading on your roster where you were talking about you were a 6-time Junior Olympic National Championship qualifier, And I just want to know, how old were you when you qualified for that?
I started level 10 in sixth grade. Sixth grade was my
Okay.
first year of level 10. It was crazy because that was still elementary school for us. And they kind of have like an unspoken rule in gymnastics. If you want to try and make it to college, like get to level 10 by 10th grade. And so
Mhm.
I was in level 10 for 7 years total. We didn't have nationals COVID year, so that was that year. But yeah, I mean, I was in elementary school doing elite level gymnastics, and a lot of my gymnastics grows you up fast because a lot of my peers and classmates and stuff, they just like they couldn't understand what I was doing, and I mean, hardly I or hardly even understood the level I was at and
Mhm.
how young I was. But I started getting college recruiting letters in sixth grade and into seventh grade, and that was just scary. Like I had no idea what college was or what I wanted to
Mhm.
do with my life, and to get those letters and to make that decision at such a young age was crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. I know, like for some sports, I know for soccer, they'll start recruiting girls in like middle school, starting high school. I remember this one girl, she had an offer to actually she got committed to Texas Tech her freshman year of high school. And I was like, that's strange. Like that's really good for her, but for track,
Right.
I mean, you can kind of get the same thing, but it was like you never saw anyone getting like committed at that age. So
Right.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Especially 'cause like, you're completely different. I committed this summer between my eighth grade and my freshman year of high school, and you're a completely different gymnast person. Everything can happen in those 4 years. So
Mhm.
I was in between a rule change where now you can't talk to college coaches until you're going into your junior year of high school, which is much better and, you know, better for all parties. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was just a crazy time.
Yeah, I think that's also better for like people's mental health. And so they're not basing who they are off of their performance because at that age, I mean, when I was running at that age, I was just out there having fun. I can't imagine trying to be scouted, having I don't even know, a coach from a college come scout me at 10 years old. I can't do that.
Right.
But yeah, that's insane. But yeah, I just the difference between sports and just how they operate always amazes me because just like what you were saying. I mean, that's awesome. But so how did you know that Auburn was the school that you wanted to go to?
It's a great question. I visited 5 schools. I visited Oklahoma, Denver, Georgia, Auburn, and LSU. I wanted to be in the SEC, so um, that eliminated a couple of my schools. But at the end of the day, it was between Oklahoma and Auburn, and I know
Mhm.
Oklahoma isn't an SEC school yet, but Oklahoma had the number one gymnastics program several years in a row leading up until my decision. So it was a balance between, okay, do I want to go to a school where, like I'm under the pressure of trying to win a national championship every year. And of course, that's the goal, anyways. But I wanted my life and my college experience to be more than just gymnastics because that's what I had known my whole life. I was just a gymnast. I was Sophia the gymnast. And I felt that Auburn was the place for me so I could build my character. I could build my cohort, that I could expand and just become a better person. And, they prioritize me as a person and as a student athlete. So person first and then student athlete. And I really valued that. And it really came down to like I prayed really hard on it. And it was definitely the Holy Spirit because I had no idea. I was again 13 years old trying to make one of the biggest decisions of my life. And I was being pulled in two opposite directions for different reasons, and I just had no idea what I wanted. And it came to me, I was shopping with my mom on like a random Sunday, and I was talking to the coaches and I was like, I need some more time to make my decision. And they were like, yeah, take your time. And I was with my mom. I was like, Mom, I'm going to Auburn. And she was like, what? And I was like it was just kind of like a filter had been lifted off, and I was like, this is the place for me. And in those 4 years, I never wavered.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm really happy for you. Auburn, I I mean, coming from an Alabama student, I mean, I think Auburn's a really great school. My mom and uncle went to Auburn, so yeah, they tried to get me to go there when I was young.
Yeah,
But
my sister goes to business, so I mean, I have a connection, but
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And so during that transition, because where are you from again?
Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay, so that's how far is that from Auburn?
It's quite a bit. It's like 850 miles or something, about a
Oh,
16. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that is a ways. I'm from Texas, so that's like an 8-hour drive, which I don't want to take. But during that just transition period and you having to figure out, what's the next move, where or how in what ways did you see God move through that period? And like when like he was basically saying like this is where I want you to go, how did you yeah, in what ways did you see him move? That's my question.
Absolutely. I think, I wanted to find my home, and I didn't want to just go to a place where it was like just my college. And I wanted to really build a community and have somewhere to come back to when I'm older and grown in with my kids and be like, this is where I spent my time, and this is where I like went to church, and so
Mhm.
I knew it was going to be a priority for me to get plugged into a church right away. And God, I had his hand over that the whole time. My roommate, she's also on the gymnastics team. She's from Birmingham, so she's local, and I was just God himself answering a prayer because she's just such a spirit-filled person. And she and I went to the Oaks retreat. I don't know if you've heard of it,
Mhm.
but it's for incoming freshmen, and it's just a way to get people to like freshmen to get to know one another and stuff before you go into fall semester. And it was awesome because I got to know a whole bunch of people that weren't student athletes, and so I got to have those connections and that community before I even stepped foot on campus for first day of classes. And
Yeah.
they had like a little like church fair there, so you got to like people
Oh.
from different churches in Auburn came, and they shared like what their church's vision was, what their missions were, and you just got to like kind of go around and see, just a glimpse of maybe where you wanted to try out some churches when you got to campus in the fall. And that really helped because I knew coming into college, my church back home in Iowa is an ARC church under Church of the Highlands. So I knew I was probably going to end up at Highlands just because I was familiar with the way they worked things and just the community. But we got to try out a couple different churches, and it was awesome just to see the outpouring of God's love and the way he surrounded people in my life so quickly, and just how intentional the relationships became so fast. And it was awesome. And that was probably the most evident thing, was just the outpouring of love and community that I saw right away.
That's really good. Wow, I love that. Yeah, it's really crazy to see what God can do in a short amount of time. And also just getting out there and being a part of the church community and just seeing the other things that people are doing for his kingdom, right? And yeah, I think it's just such a great thing, honestly. Have you really noticed that difference between your, I guess, competing in college as opposed to competing when you were in high school in club? Like, I know there's obviously a difference, but what differences have you really seen, and how has God been able to kind of work in a way that like changes your perspective on how you approach certain things?
Yeah, no, I love that question. In high school, I saw gymnastics as a business. And it was just, I was trying to go through the motions just to get to college because I knew that it was going to be worth it in college. And it was not very joyful for me. It was, again, my job, and I felt this immense amount of pressure and responsibility to perform. And even though I did have my faith at that point, it was still not like what I knew gymnastics could offer me in terms of joy and in terms of, fulfillment. And so coming into college, I didn't have any pressure. I didn't put any pressure on myself because it was a team sport, and it wasn't just up to me. Like, I was going to show up for my teammates and they were going to show up for me. And just after the first meet, it was funny because throughout the season, like, I started getting recognized for just my smile, because I would do a skill on beam and then just smile so big and my mouth would be wide open, and like I started getting my pictures back from like the media team, and my mouth would be wide open and I didn't even know I was doing that. And it was just like slowly became like a realization of, God's joy and just how joyful I was doing what I loved. And again, just the Auburn family loving on me and seeing that community and them supporting me as I was able to just share my faith so publicly. And I think that can be rare, and it can be received in a lot of different ways. But the immense amount of support I got from the Auburn family was just so encouraging and has helped me really use my platform just to expand his kingdom.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that follows into my next question. I was going to ask, um, would you consider your sport to be almost a sort of ministry for God and his people?
Oh, absolutely. Gymnastics specifically has gotten a lot more attention just throughout the last couple of years. I know it's always a sport that people watch during the Olympics, but college gymnastics has made it onto ABC, and we're getting a lot more attention, and it's been awesome because that's just the perfect opportunity that God's giving me, this opportunity and this platform to expand his kingdom, to share what he's doing in my life, how he's using me and how he's using my talents and gifts just to bring him glory. And I think it's been such an awesome testament just to his love and his mercy and his purpose on my life. And at the end of the day, gymnastics isn't everything, and there's so much more to me and who I am as a human, but I'm so thankful that he's given me the ability and the talent to do gymnastics and as a way to give him glory.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that. I would also consider just like really anything that God puts us out there to do is a ministry for him. And usually usually people think like when someone says ministry or like ministering to someone, it's usually like a preacher on the stage and they got a mic in their hand and they're preaching the word. But then it kind of hit me and I was like, no, I mean, this podcast is a form of ministry. I mean, running track was a form of ministry. He just, he gives us the gifts to do it and to glorify him. Anything that glorifies him is just a form of ministry. So I just love that. And I love what God has done in your life. That's really amazing. I guess, what are you looking forward to for the next 2 years of your college career? And I don't I don't want to ask, do you like what your plans are like after, because I don't know, you might want to go pro, you might not, that's up to you. But I mean, what are you just looking forward to, and what ways are you looking to watch God move?
No, I'm looking forward to just continuing to expand my community, expand his kingdom, and just plant those seeds and to be a vessel to minister to others, and in whatever God uses in whatever way that is. This season was definitely not the same season I had as last year, and I knew it wasn't going to be because that's just impossible. But really wanted to build off of last season going into this season, and there were a lot of different variables that changed, and I'm a completely different gymnast than I was last season, and it wasn't the season I had hoped for. And that was a constant struggle for me this season, was just to continue to remind myself that God is using whatever season I'm in to grow and strengthen me, and to continue just to use what I have and use what he's given me to bring him glory. And it doesn't look the same every year. We pray these prayers and he can answer them in completely different packages, but the message still be the same. And so, looking ahead, I can't wait to just soak up the rest of my college years, and I won't be going pro after college. Gymnastics is kind of one of those sports where if you make it to college, that's pretty great. And so I'm looking forward to just hopefully starting a career in the college gymnastics world as a coach, and then maybe moving into the administration side. But yeah, I'm excited to see and know that the best is yet to come.
Yeah, that's awesome, girl. That's so exciting. Well, if you're wondering if it works, it worked for me, and I'm fine. So, yes, there is life outside of sports for any other athletes watching this. Yeah, that's great. Can you honestly go deeper into what you were saying when you said this year wasn't the same for you as it was last year? I feel like that happens with a lot of athletes. It's normal. It's gonna happen, and this, sometimes people just don't know how to deal with it. Can you just kind of explain what practical steps you took to trying to just stay with God and not give up and not lose hope?
Absolutely. So last season, I mean, as you were reading off those awards, it was better than I could have ever asked. And usually freshman season is the harder year for most, where you're just getting that transition from club to college, and you're trying to learn how to live by yourself, do things for yourself, be independent. You have school, which is so different. And I was just fortunate enough to, be able to acclimate pretty quickly and to kind of redefine what being a freshman meant. And then this sophomore season, I felt like I had it figured out based off of last season, and that just wasn't the case. Again, I was a completely different gymnast. I had a couple of injuries and nagging sicknesses at the beginning of preseason, and that really set me back. And I was constantly just fighting my whole way through the season, just to try and make it through rather than really thriving.
Hmm.
And it was hard. It was really hard because I knew my capabilities and I knew what I should be doing, or how I wanted to be performing and how I was performing in reality. And it's not what I wanted. It's not what I knew I was capable of. And it was really tough. And felt confused a lot of the time. I was like, I don't know, how God is really using this season. I don't know why, he's doing this, but I knew that, at the end of the day, his plan and his timing is perfect. And all I could do was just trust. All I could do was continue to use my position and my platform on the team and outside of the team to just pour into whatever he was giving me. So I turned more towards, I had to zoom out a lot, a lot, a lot. I had to zoom out and just take myself out of the equation. And it wasn't what I wanted, it was what God wanted. And so I had to, I surrounded myself with those God-filled relationships, and they were constant reminders of just the impact I actually was making and how I was still using what he is giving me to bring him glory. And every time I got back up and got back out there, it was a testament to redemption and just to his love and his mercy. And so that's how I was able to really make it throughout the season and just continue to have a joy-filled spirit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, when you get to that level, like especially your freshman year, you're just starting out. You just got done having a great season, high school career. You might be top in the nation. And then you get to college and it's like you realize everyone's just as good as you or better. And so now you're like, and was I even that good? And it's a struggle mentally, physically, it just drains your body. But understanding that you're not going out there for yourself, you're going out there to glorify the Lord. And like you were saying, when you zoom out and you really see what the Lord's trying to show you and how he wants you to move, it becomes a lot clearer as to like why you're in the season you're in or why he's doing things the way he's trying to do things. And focusing on especially like team atmosphere, I feel like in college sports that can be very underlooked. And understanding the team atmosphere and how relationships between coaches and athletes, it plays a huge role in the overall team's performance. And so how have you seen that shift? I mean, maybe I don't know yours team atmosphere, but maybe there wasn't a shift, but if there was, from your freshman to sophomore year, how have you noticed that and in what ways have you seen?
Yes, I think you bring up a great point, just of, how our actions speak louder than our words, and how we live our lives is a testament to Jesus and the Holy Spirit working through us. And that was kind of my goal this season, was just to, I didn't necessarily have to be a vocal leader on the team for people to realize and to see me and to observe and know that there's something different about her. Like, I wonder, like, why is she always happy all the time? One thing that I wanted to make sure that was consistent was how I loved people and how I treated people, and just to, be a vessel and to crack that door so people could always know that they could come and ask me like questions about my faith, or, whatever it came to.
Yeah. And attitude goes such a long way. Coaches tell us that all the time. Parents tell us all that. But when you finally, like, sometimes there's like a switch in your mind and it like clicks for you where it's like, oh my gosh, this is not about me. Like, I need to, focus on what the Lord's trying to show me, and understanding that, like I said, attitude goes a long way. And so what you do is, people are going to see that and notice that, and they're going to take note of that. And then you get to tell them, well, it's Jesus, y'all.
Yeah.
And then you can possibly share the gospel. So that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, I mean, that was all really good stuff, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed having you on my podcast. This has honestly been the best thing ever. So
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Kenny. I'm glad you reached out. And another thing is just like my DMs are always open in terms of like that kind of stuff. And I think again, just being able to use my platform to bring attention to your podcast, what you're doing, your mission is awesome. And I'm just so thankful that you reached out.
course. Well, thank you so much. And I will reach out again if I ever have any questions or you want to come back on.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Sophia has such an amazing and impactful story, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what God will continue to do through her. Well, I hope you all enjoyed her story, and I cannot wait for the next episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, then be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss any new content. If you're listening on Spotify, then be sure to follow and hit that notification bell.